So remember when I run my server, it shows you the the URL as slash node. Oops. Oh no. Oh, okay, back to my. So what I'm saying is, if you go back over here, right, it says slash. So this is called the root root page or a root route. So for example, on your URL, if you say / home.html, it doesn't exist, but if you type it in, you will see it changes to home HTML. Okay, if you have your about page, about.html, about.html, you will see the URL changes to this. What this tells us is this variable within the request is going to have everything after your port number. Okay, and the reason is your server is running on this localhost 80. It already knows this information. It's kind of redundant. So after the slash, this is what you're trying to access. So remember that, because you'll be using in the next exercise, we'll be kind of routing this. Okay, so your server receives a URL which consists of everything after the port number. So it is slash contact.html. Your server is receiving slash HEML. Okay, maybe there's a language HEML, you can parse that as well, but that's simply we are console logging, so that's why it will show you whatever you type in. Okay, so it's your URL property is going to have everything after this thing. Okay, and generally just this page is kind of considered home page, so that's why this is called the root URL. All right, does everybody has the server running? Are you able to, if you're able to access and output something on your browser? Okay, so right now I'm just sending some. If nobody has already tried it, I'm just sending a string back. Let's see if we can push some HTML back. Okay, it's just going to be this. Within this, just replace it with some HTML, and you should get some HTML back. But we will use some. So we did the listing part. We did the handle request part. Let's look at some of the routing and send some HTML back. Again, the routing means oops, the routing means this URL over here. If I have this URL, I should be able to display my home HTML. Okay, if I type in this URL, my server should send me some HTML back for this page. Okay, for contact, it should send me that. Whatever HTML page you have, it should send you back the correct HTML. Okay, so that's where the routing comes in, and that's what we will do. Okay, so in my handle request, I'm going to change this up, and then based on that, I'm going to, so I don't need this for now. Okay, I'm going to capture the path. Okay, the URL or the path that is coming in my request. I'm going to say request.url, right? Just that what we saw. And based on this URL, I'm going to show different HTMLs, right? So I'm going to put a switch statement. I'm going to say path. All right, if my path is just /, I want to show my home page. If my path is, let's say, let's add another case here. If my path is /about, I want to show some about page. Okay, right now the code is not there. We'll fill in those blanks. And by default, if it's not this, I want to show like a 404 page, right? It does not exist. Okay, so I'm going to put some code, say 404 does not exist. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so I'm getting a URL back. It's going to be the //about or anything else. It should say I haven't created that web page. It does not exist. My website doesn't have that page. My website only have two pages, the home page or the route or the root page, okay, and an about page. Okay, so you can write your HTML over here, but I'm going to create some nice functions so that our code is nice and modularized. So let's create a couple of functions just as my bidding one. So I'm going to say function display root page. Okay, that's my first page. And then I'm going to create another function, and I'm going to say display about page. Okay, just stub those out. And then these are functions I'm going to call in my switch statements. I'm going to say display root page, and then display about page. Okay, just fine. You can write the exact same code over here, but I'm just kind of modularizing so that my code still looks nicer. Okay, and we're missing one more, so let's create a 404 as well. So say function display 404 page. Okay, and this goes over here, and I'm going to say display 404 page. Okay, all right. So based on the path, I'm displaying some pages. Right now they're empty functions, and we'll go and fill it out. And we are going to put some HTML inside it. Okay. So remember the string, the concatenation, that what I was doing, I was sending, where do I send that data back to my client? What variable do I need to use? No. Response. I'm sending back from my server, right? HTML has to be from my server. The HTML has to go to my server, so it has to be in my response. So response is going to have my HTML that I create. Okay, so I need this response variable. I'm just going to, since I created a function, I'm just going to pass this response same variable, so I can use this to create to send back that HTML. Okay. All right, let's start with the first one. So I have my response coming up over here. Okay, let's put this out. So let's create some HTML. So let's say HTML is equal to, and then right now let's write some HTML. So it's going to be, oh, this is going to be interesting. So HTML tags. Why are you guys laughing? You guys have to do the same thing, okay? Before I show you the easy way. So, all right, so let's put our body tag. Let's just create basic HTML. I'm not going to worry about English and languages and everything, and just do an H1 and say home page. Okay. Let's add a tag, href. Okay, and this h tag goes to shows a link which goes to my about page. Okay, let's do that. Let's see if this works. Okay, and let's say about. Okay, is this a valid HTML? It's kind of hard to tell. HTML, body, h1, ahref, about page. Okay, it's a simple HTML. And this, I'm going to create this, and I'm going to send this back to my client. So I'm going to say response dot end and HTML. Okay, still a string. All right, so when somebody comes to my slash page, this is the HTML they should see. Okay. Now, before the response, you will see something else also. You will see this function. It's used a lot as well, and this is called write head. Okay, so basically what this means is when you are sending a response back from your server, there are some codes that your client is expecting. Okay, one of the codes is called 200. 200 means that the server received the request successfully, it processed it, and it's successfully sending back a response. Okay, so there are some codes you will see. One of the other code that you must have seen is 404, right? 404 means that the server received your request, but the page that you are trying to access does not exist on the server. Okay, so the server is going to send your response code back 404. Okay, basic ones are 200 and 404. Remember those. Once you are coding a lot, you will hear for a few more codes, and you'll kind of get used to it. Okay, so what I'm saying is I have received the request, I have processed it successfully, and I'm sending you back successful code 200, and then the data that I'm sending you back is HTML. So you're going to say, you can say content type, okay, is text slash HTML. Again, you can skip this line, it will still work, right? But this is the standard. This is how, when you're creating web servers, you need to have the correct codes, correct content type, so that your browser can easily process that information. Okay, so what you are saying is you're creating a header. Remember headers? When you create a request, there are some headers in your request you must have used in your project. So basically, you're creating a header in your response, and you're saying, okay, successful code 200, and the data that I'm returning you back is an HTML. That's all this says. Okay, and then you end this HTML, send this back, and this should come up. So before we run anything, let's see if this is working, and we'll complete the next pages. Let's run our server, successfully running. If I go back to my localhost 8080/, this time I should see a web page. Oops, sorry. And there it is. Okay. Let's go back here, stop my server so that I can see. All right, so what I did, I'm getting a URL. When somebody comes to this home page, my home URL, I'm going to go ahead and send them back this HTML. Similarly, when somebody comes to my about page, I'll do the exact same thing. Okay, this time my HTML is going to look a bit different just with an about page. Slash HTML, and then body, yes. This should be, let's see. Yeah, it should be active. Try them. Just post it again. Okay. So go ahead and create another HTML. This time, this is going to be. Oh my god! I can't believe I'm actually typing this whole thing. Okay. About. This is going to be my about page, and I'm just going to copy paste this. And my href, this time I'm going to have a link which goes back to my home page. Okay, and let's call it go home. Let's say go about and go back to home page. Does this HTML look fine? HTML body h1 href. Okay, and then let's go back and response.add a header saying that I have received successfully. So the code for successful is 200, and then an object telling the browser the data that I'm sending you back is HTML. Okay. When we get to JSON, you will see it kind of changes, and then the most important line is response.end. What do I need to send end with? My HTML. Come on. Okay. All right. Let's complete this one and we can look at this as well. So I'm just going to copy paste this. So any other page, they don't exist. So I'm going to say 404 not found. 404 is a code similar to 200. Okay, so this time you're going to actually tell your client that there was no page found. Okay, and you're going to let's say pre-type. So this is not the page you are looking for. Okay, so 404, this page should come up if anything other than about and my home page are accessed. So let's go back here. Open in terminal. Okay, let's go back here, refresh. Okay, home page, go to about, successfully. You see the URL changes, go back to home. Okay, that works. And then if I type in some page that does not exist, for example, contact.html, I should get a 404. Okay, that's how the 404 things work. Remember, you go to a web page, so they actually have a default. They are doing something very similar. Okay, let's go back to our home page. Let me stop my server. Connection these and see if there are questions. All right. Questions? Does everybody understand what just happened? So we started with creating a simple web server. Then we created a web server that responds with just a simple string. Now we are creating a web server that is listening, parsing the data, and then routing. This is basically called routing, right? Basically what it does, it checks the URL based on what the URL is. It routes you to that page, right? So if the URL is root or home page, it takes you to this HTML, okay? If it is /about, it takes you to this HTML. If none of this, if it's a new URL that does not exist, it's going to take you to a 404 page and say, oh, wrong URL. Okay, you can add a home page over here as well, an href with slash. It should take you back to your home page. Okay, questions? No questions? Good. Okay. So the biggest issue is that I have to write this HTML over here. Right? Everybody agrees that that's too much. What if I want to use Bootstrap? Bootstrap, I want to create a nice web page. Of course, you can't do this. Okay. So what do? We are going to create a separate HTML file, right? Index.html, whatever you want to call it. And then we are going to send that HTML file from this. Instead of typing it out like this as a string, we are going to create a HTML file over here. Okay, that file exists on my server. And then when somebody comes to that, I'm going to take that file. I'm going to read that file and then send it back. How do I read a file? Node.js. What was it? Yes, file system, file stream. Remember the reading of the file? Okay, everything is coming together. So we are going to use fs module, read our index.html, and then send the data back. You guys see it? Okay, so we're going to connect, we're going to change this bit. We're going to create our index.html file, and we are going to use our file stream module. And then based on that, we're going to send our HTML back. Okay? All right, hopefully you guys remember the fs module. So let's see. Should I do it over here or should I not do it over here? All right. Before I start doing it, let's simply go ahead and create an index.html at least, and then decisions. All right, I'm going to do it separately. All right, so let's call it proper server. Okay, I'm going to create a server.js. Okay, and I'm going to create a new server. All right, let's do this quickly. Const http. I can't believe I'm typing the whole thing again. HTTP. Create a server. What do I need? A port number as well. Let's say 8080. Okay. And then I need to create my server. So I need a const server is equal to http.create server. Create server requires a function. Let's create a function called handle request. It's going to take in two parameters. The first one is going to be request response. Okay, put that in over here. Handle requests. It should be listening to server.listen. Okay, listen takes the first parameter is going to be port number, and the second is going to be a callback function. And let's go ahead and say console log server listening on http//localhost. Okay, and then the port number, port. Okay, so just redid the whole thing. All right, so in my handle request, let's go back and do our URL parsing. So create a path. My request will have the URL. Okay, based on the URL, I'm going to create my switch statement. If the path is this, do something. If the path is let's do just one. Let's on the slash it should show up my index.html. Let's do that. Let's be easier and quicker. Okay. Default. We'll come back and do this one. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create some look at some bootstrap. Create an index HTML. Use some tags that you are aware that will show you a better web page. All right, let me open up. Maybe I'll add a jumbotron. This is my jumbotron. Okay, so let's go back to this. Create our index.html. Kind of back to week 1. There's my HTML. Okay, let's go back to Bootstrap. There's my Bootstrap. Bootstrap CDN. I'm just going to use this style sheet for now. Okay. All right. Let's see. Jumbotron. Okay, let's add some code for Jumbotron. All right. And then let's add some HTML. Okay, I'm just going to copy this. Let's add some HTML. Okay. Again, you can create anything. The more important is just I want to show you that you can add your JavaScript libraries, CSS, everything the exact same way. So I just created an HTML page, used some Bootstrap, and then added a UL. Okay. You can use H1, Jumbotron, whatever you want. Just create an HTML page. That's what we are looking for. I think we'll go with this one. Okay. So I have a HTML page, and on my server, when somebody comes to this one, I'm going to create a function similar to the previous one. I'm going to say display root. Function display root. We need a response back, of course, right? And then we're going to call this function here, display root, pass in the response. Oops. Okay. Now we are back to the same thing. This time, instead of passing in string HTML, I'm going to pass in this file, index.html. Okay. Remember reading the file. So we need our old buddy fs module, require fs. Okay, and we'll use our read file. If you don't remember, look at the documentation one more time. So it is going to be fs.read file. Okay. What is the first parameter? It is going to be the path. Okay. Now where is this index.html? Okay. Remember there's a global variables in Node.js. One of the global variable, we use the port one, we use the process env and all that stuff. There's another variable, if you look at the documentation, it's called __dir name. Okay, what this variable does is this constant, this global variable, it is going to give you the path of your this folder where your current file is in. It's going to give you the directory name, the folder name. For example, my server.js is in a folder called first server. Oh, sorry, proper server. Okay, so it's going to give you blah 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 something something slash proper server. Okay, and where is my index.html? Apparently it's not here. What? Where did I create? Let me move this here. Okay, where is my index.html? It's in the same directory. So you're going to concatenate, use this one, and then say plus slash index.html. Okay, now again, always use this variable. Again, why? Once, right now it will work. Once you deploy it to Heroku somewhere else on the cloud, this dir name, Node.js will figure it out on its own. Okay, it will always give you the correct folder name, the path where your folder is. So right now what it does is it looks for this file server.js. Okay, which directory is this server.js in? It is in slash desktop slash whatever slash proper server. Okay, that's what it is going to give you. Okay, index html is going to be in the same path right now. Okay, if you have a folder called public or something, that's where your index html is. You'll have to add that as well. For now, my index html is on the same path as my main directory. Okay, so basically this gives you the path to your root directory, right? So read file, I need the directory path, and that's where my html is. The second is my callback function, and then the two parameters are error and the data that is read from that file, correct? Okay. Let's add our error handling and then say if there's any error, throw that error, stop the execution, don't go further. All right. And then what do I have to do? I have to send this data back now. That's all. I read a file, instead of writing it in a string, I'm reading it and data is string, right? So basically my string variable now has all of this HTML. It goes to this file, reads every single line, puts it into this data variable. Now what do? I just send this back. So I'm going to say response dot write head saying that this was successful to error, code number 2000, and the content that is coming back to my client is going to be HTML. So I'm going to say content dash type and then text slash HTML. Okay, and the last line important so that I can send that back. I'm going to say end and then send the data back. Right, this is the data variable that is coming from when I read the file. Okay, you see how less the code is now, and I have Bootstrap also, super fancy, right? Let's see if this actually works before I start seeing. So this time I'm going to run my server code, server listening on localhost. This time if I go to my home page, it should give me, and there it is. You see it? So we started with a string HTML, eventually you get, and this is what you are doing. Okay, this is how you create a web server, listening, URL parsing, and then displaying HTML or JSON. Right now it's HTML, will come to the JSON part, but this is what happens. Okay, so you can actually create your index, your HTML files. Now you see the pattern, every single HTML file, your backend code are all in the same location. Okay, they are all going to be deployed together, which is part of the server. Okay, so basically your HTML is also on your server side. Okay, when the request comes in, when I type in www.localhost/, my server is listening for it, right? How do I know? Because it is listening over here. Okay, it receives a request with the root node and it says, oh, I received it, I'm going to route it through, I'm going to call this function. Oh, in this function, there's an index HTML file on the server. When I'm located, I'm going to find that HTML file. I'm going to read it, put it in this variable, and then send that data back. Okay, and this is how I receive it. My browser is literally getting a string, but the string has HTML, so it kind of renders it nicely. Okay, questions? It's getting too fast, right? Let me close this. Okay, but see, I've taken, yes. No and yes. I'm not going to do it. You are going to do it. But yes, it's going to be the exact same thing. That was a joke. So you are going to have the same thing. This time you're going to say slash about exactly, and you're going to say about page. Create an about HTML over here. Put it over here, and this time, what are you going to read it? And this time, this is going to change to about, right? And then this way, you're going to have any number of HTML pages are going to reside over here. You're just going to connect it based on this routing. Okay. So as backend developers who are creating web servers, we need to know how to route to which page. So similarly, create a 404 page, HTML, put it over here. If somebody comes to a page that does not exist, send that back. Okay. So you see the ease that I know HTML. So this is so much easier to make a bootstrap page, right? Instead of writing it as a string. And then all I do is I read this and send it back. Any other questions? Getting it? No? Maybe? Can you explain the dir name? Okay, so dir name is a global global variable that is part of Node.js. Is that clear? Okay. So what does dir name do? Dir name stands for directory name. So it goes and finds the directory name or the path for where this current file is in. Wherever you call this constant, it's going to look for the directory name of the file that you're calling it in. I'm calling it in server.js, so it goes and finds the directory name of my server.js. What is the directory name? It is / something something proper server. So it brings me that. So I'm using this to my advantage so I can find my index.html. Now, let's suppose I have another folder within it and I'm calling it public folder. At some point, I'll go through why am I calling it public, and my index.html resides in this one. Okay, what happens now? Will this work? No. Why? It looks for the directory name of server.js, which is blah 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 / proper server. But my HTML is within, there's another folder, right? So I have to do / public / oops, not public / HTML. Okay. Again, directory name is going to give you the path where your current file where this is being called is in. Okay, so we are taking advantage of that constant variable. And remember in your HTML, we were saying don't put C:// and all that path. Is the exact same thing over here. Don't hard code a path. Instead, use this name. Why? Once you deploy this on your cloud provider, directory name is going to be whatever the path is over there, and we don't know what that path is going to be. But Node.js knows it. They will bring it up. What we need to know is the path over here. Once Node.js brings us that path, where are my files inside this folder? That's all we need to know. Okay. Let me move back over here and give it a try. Create a public folder, put index.html. It's a good practice. Eventually, this is what we are going to do. Okay. Public folder basically means anything that is public facing. That's what it means. My server.js, this code is not public facing because this is on my server. This is the one that is being seen when somebody goes to my web page. That's why it's called public. And we'll get to that once we have more pages. Okay? Right on the dot, noon. All right, any questions? Let's take a break, come back, 10-15 minutes, give this a try, make sure you have at least one HTML page up and running, and then we will look at some more exercises. Okay? All right. Lunchtime, 12:45.